Hey guys, Rollout here, and welcome to Builder's Block. Episode 10, we're in double digits now. There's still construction going on outside this week. They're like redoing the entire sidewalk, apparently. So once again, ignore any big trucks or machinery you might hear in the background. This is because I badmouthed Devastator last week, isn't it? The Constructicons are coming to get me. A new Transformer showcase went up, so check out Breakthrough if you haven't already. More importantly, give the instructions a watch because the YouTube Studio app is being real passive-aggressive about the video not doing as well as my last one, even though my instructions notoriously get fewer views, but it's a new feature of Studio to tell you how your videos are doing, and it's a little annoying, to be honest. If you want to keep these LEGO Transformers coming, you can consider supporting me on Patreon, where I post daily content. If I do build a Transformer, by becoming a patron, you'll get to see it there before anyone else. Of course, you can support the show by liking the video, so don't forget to do that. And without further ado, let's get on to what I built this week. So I took a stab at another spaceship, this time more of an intergalactic starship rather than a starfighter. And it turned out pretty well. I really like this design. It's kind of inspired by some of the massive ships that I've seen at Bricks Cascade. I imagine it has this front section where all of the living quarters are in, all of the people on the ship reside in this front assembly, and that is sort of constantly spinning to create an artificial gravity of some kind. And then when the ship docks, these armatures come and lock that entire assembly in place. Again, a very long ship. I really like some of the details in the middle with that, I don't know, power core or something. And then at the back, you have this very complex cone shape, and that's actually how this model began. I built that and didn't really know what to do with it. I eventually ended up turning it into this. Here it is from the back. You can see the jet engine. I guess it wouldn't be a jet engine in space, but some kind of propulsion. And then here you can see that entire cone assembly kind of deconstructed. It uses those round 1x1 bar pieces to hold those triangular signs in place. I really love flags and signs recently. They can create some really cool geometry in your LEGO builds. On the next day, I built this automated assault drone of some kind, this four-legged turret thing. It's got guns or missiles on top. It has an eye in the middle, a camera in the middle, and then it uses these ski poles as legs, and I think that's a really cool design aspect. I imagine this thing being aquatic on some level. The fact that the legs are so thin, it definitely reminds me of a water skipper. I think it's some pretty cool imagery to imagine a bunch of these sort of skipping atop water, even though this is probably a very heavy robot and the physics of that don't really work out, but it is called science fiction for a reason. On the next day, I built this sort of Egyptian-inspired creature of some kind. I know that some people are going to assume that this might be a synchro frame, but I actually did not build this to be a robot at all, surprisingly. I imagine this as an undead creature of some kind. My thought was that some Egyptian relic summons these from the underworld to carry out the will of Anubis, sort of a faceless assassin. And you can see that the face is this pyramid, triangular sort of piece here. It is the only piece on the model that is gray, and it definitely calls attention towards that. There's kind of an interesting technique with the hand hand, that rounded piece and the pneumatic T kind of come together, and there's space in between them for a rod. So you can see that she is holding a Egyptian sickle of some kind. I call this the Priestess of Death. So I do imagine it as kind of a female character. She has kind of a loincloth there in red. I think the red is a very striking color, especially along with the gold, the black, and the tan. It really gives it a cool Egyptian feel to it. Here she is from the side, and there she is from the back. A very simple build, and like I said, there are some robotic qualities, but I did not intend for this to be a robot. On the next day, I built a SciFi Ray Gun in kind of a small scale. This isn't one-to-one, but it is inspired by the one-to-one guns built by Boone Langston. He likes building SciFi Ray Guns, and so I gave it a shot. And I'm pretty happy with this. The colors are pretty monotone. I probably could have made it a bit more colorful and interesting. It's just that I really wanted to use these ball joint elements to give this angle to the handle of the gun, and those only come in dark gray. And I probably could have worked that into a more interesting color scheme, but I decided just to go with the very industrial look here. It's got some interesting snot techniques utilizing those ball joints in the main body of the gun. You can see the way I did the handle, and I really like the silver accents to the nozzle of the gun as well as the trigger. Here it is in my hand. It's a very tiny thing. It kind of reminds me of the noisy cricket from the Men in Black movies, but yeah, a fun little design, very clean. So on the next day, I had an idea for an Optimus Prime. And I decided to give it a shot, just to sort of physicalize the design so I could see how it worked. And this is what I ended up with. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, I do not plan on pursuing this design any further. This was just an experiment. Don't expect this to become a future Lego Transformer. Sorry to say it, that's how it is. I might take some elements of this design and use it in a differently designed Transformer in the future, or even use some of these concepts in an Optimus Prime later on. But right now, as you see it, this probably will not be finished. But this is why Builder's Block exists, so that when I build something like this, when I explore ideas like this, you see it. It's not lost forever. So here he is in an unfinished robot mode. Obviously, the head would have been made more detailed. Obviously, he'd have arms and legs. I'm not happy with the way this looks, and that's the reason that I'm not going to finish this design. Proportionally and aesthetically, this just isn't what I'm going for when I recreate Optimus Prime at some point in the future. I'd want it to look a little bit different than this. But there are some interesting ideas in the transformation, in how this guy gets to truck mode. So here is kind of a deconstruction of that. The upper torso kind of comes back and rotates around. The windows flip around to cover the head. And then the grill of the truck actually hides behind the grill in robot mode. And then that comes down and the legs come back. And you end up with something sort of like this. Now, in the final design, obviously I would have used the arms to come around the back, create more mass, and then fill in that front section of the grill to make it look a bit more proportionate. And that might have been a good way to hide the hands as well. You can see that because of the nature of this transformation, there's a lot of space inside, which gives room for the head and gives room for anything else, like the arms. I think there's a lot of potential to this design, or to approaching Optimus Prime's transformation in this way. There's a lot of potential for hiding the wheels on the side here on his back as well. Like I said, there are some cool ideas, and honestly, while I'm not going to pursue this specific design any further, feel free to build this yourself and try to make it into a complete Optimus Prime. I would love to see it. Of course, you can send any pictures of all of your LEGO creations to contactrollout@gmail.com. All right. So on the next day, I was once again quite busy. You see, my friend Starscreamer invited me over, and we sorted all of his Lego bricks for hours and hours and hours, and we lost our minds a little bit. But after an entire night of doing that, I got back home and I returned with some pieces that I needed to make some progress on a couple of projects that I am working on. So I found that dark translucent blue 1x1 for Barricade's light bar here. So now my second barricade is finally complete. However, Frenzy still needs that gray robot droid body, the light blay one that only exists in a single set. However, I did find a silver one, and I figured while I have it, I should try it out. It looks better than the dark gray for sure, but I still don't really like the way this looks, to be perfectly honest, and I still am going to go with that light bluish gray one once I finally get it, but it is tricky to find, and for now, this is okay. But this being Builder's Block, you get to see stuff like this. You get to see attempts like this that otherwise would have been lost forever. Then I also found pieces to finish up Hightower and Scavenger on my Devastator duplicate. I also found the pieces to finish Scrapper and Rampage. So the only one that is missing any parts now on my duplicate Devastator is Long Haul. We did not find some of the lime green pieces that I need, unfortunately. So it's come to my attention that scrap metal is actually in Revenge of the Fallen, in that Devastator combination scene. He's literally in the corner of a single frame for a millisecond. So that's pretty cool. That's not infuriatingly stupid at all. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, Payload and Buckethead aren't their official names, so like you can stop with that too. I'm over it, honestly. I'm honestly just over it. So only 6 days of building this week rather than 7. Like I said, I'm now taking a break from building on Tuesdays to prioritize recording and uploading these episodes of Builder's Block. But you're still seeing plenty of creations from me every single week, so I think it works out pretty well. I also think it's curious that while I've got several supporters on Patreon, none of them have gone for the cheapest tier. I'd like some suggestions for how I can make the lowly scout class option a little bit more appealing to you all. Maybe I should open up the Discord server to all tiers. Would you be interested in that? Let me know. Big shout out to everyone currently supporting me on Patreon though, especially the leader class patrons, Cruciferous Belligerents, Toa Ventron, and Valraven. I'll start working on the video for my next Transformer soon, so keep an eye out for that. But until then, this has been Rollout, signing off.